Hello and welcome back to Asia Now. In this video, I'll tell you about Immigration Commissioner accused of corruption by BI officers, a sharp rise in HIV in the Philippines, mother-to-child transmission, Gaza-bound aid boat with environmental activist Greta Thunberg stopped by Israeli forces, plus much more. Let's jump straight into our main story. Employees of the Bureau of Immigration Philippines have filed an anonymous complaint to President Marcos accusing BI Commissioner Joe Anthony Viado of corruption and misconduct, particularly involving illegal activities tied to Philippines offshore gaming operators. Key allegations include favoritism and abuse of power. Viado allegedly expedited bail and release orders for foreign nationals involved in illegal pogo operations, including 3 Chinese bosses connected to a raided hub in Paranaki. Bypassing deportation protocols, he reportedly blocked the proper detention of 39 illegal workers, instead confining them in a BI conference room. Special treatment, Viado is said to have arranged the release of 114 foreign nationals from Asian gaming technology despite the government's pogo ban. Selling quota visas granting permanent residency were allegedly sold to highest bidder under the leadership with Chinese nationals paying up to 5 million pesos. Trafficking, of course, risk mismanagement, deportation led to some foreign nationals being sent to unintended destination, risking their safety, and poor leadership. Viado was also accused of lax work habits, seldom holding board meetings, and improperly joining procurement meetings, which could compromise transparency. The employees claimed these issues reflect systematic corruption and urged a thorough investigation. BI spokesperson Dana Sandoval dismissed the letter as potentially unauthenticated and reiterated that the Bureau's commitment to accountability. Whoa! So let's see what the commissioner had to say in response. Commissioner Viado addressed the allegations. Quote, white paper circulated to the office of the president, which contained above, obviously, he revealed that the individuals behind the campaign have already been identified and suggests the effort is politically motivated, possibly in retaliation for the Bureau's reforms that disrupted illicit activities. He also mentions involvement of disgruntled employees and a senior BI official who allegedly attempted to interfere in a high-profile immigration case. Despite warnings and threats, Commissioner Viado stands firm in his reform agenda, asserting that no smear campaign will deter his mission to clean up the BI. He assured the public that the truth will prevail and those behind the allegation will be exposed in due time. BI officers accusing the commissioner and the commissioner accusing the BI officials, saying they're the corrupt ones. A few days ago, I told you guys about the increase in HIV cases over 500% in the Philippines, and a recent article said that even transmission between mothers and babies are in a sharp rise. Here's what the article had to say. The Department of Health reports a sharp rise in HIV transmissions from mother to child. From January 2020 to March 2025, there were 202 such cases, making up more than half of the 401 total cases recorded since 1984. In early 2005 alone, 17 new mothers to child HIV cases were reported. Despite the rise, sexual contact remains the leading mode of HIV transmission, accounting for 96% of all cases since 1985. Wow, quite alarming. Just protect yourself whichever way you can. Staying in the Philippines, in a survey conducted from April 23rd, the social welfare station reported that the percentage of families rating themselves as poor dropped from 55% to 50%. That's great. So 5% less families consider themselves poor every few months, at least 6 months, I believe. The department does similar surveys to see how people feel about their financial situation. And then Israeli forces stopped a Gaza-bound aid boat and detained Greta Thunberg and other activists who were on board early Monday, enforcing a long-standing blockade of the Palestinian territory that has been tightened during the war with Hamas. If you don't know what that means, it's about that boat that was carrying supplies with the following activists. Greta Thunberg and other activists aboard the Gaza-bound aid ship Madeleine were intercepted by the Israeli forces in international waters. On June 9th, the boat, organized by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, aimed to deliver humanitarian aid and protest the blockade of Gaza.
My name is Greta Thunberg and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
Israeli authorities detained the group and redirected the vessel to an Israeli port, calling the mission a political stunt, while activists and some international observers condemned the interception as excessive and unlawful. Unlawful? Well, there's a lot of stuff that's unlawful right now. So despite, let me try to organize my thoughts here. Okay, look, obviously, maybe not obvious, but I am against what's happening in Gaza right now. I'm against anybody doing anything bad to another human being, despite your religion, race, color, beliefs, or whatever. I don't think innocent people should die under any circumstance. I think there should be some kind of dialogue, no matter which country. I don't pick any side. I'm just against people dying for absolutely no reason. And then I can't really, let me try to go ahead and, so for example, the two incidents that happened against Israelis, against Jewish people in the US, one in Colorado, one in Washington, about people saying free Palestine and committing a atrocious act, taking the lives of 2 people minimum and injuring 15 more in the other one. Buddy, you're not helping anybody. All you're doing is you're basically giving the opposition exactly what they need to go ahead and dismiss your entire blames. You throwing a Molotov cocktail into a crowd and saying free Palestine is not doing anything. If you're thinking this is going to actually bring eyes to the situation, that's not going to do it. It's just going to be a net. You know, they say any publicity is good publicity. No, I don't agree with, not in this case. All it does make you look bad, make your point not very valid. And I just don't have the emotional capacity to sit and explain my feelings on Gaza and all that, or the actual intellect or knowledge. But you know, for the next 10 minutes, actually, I'm going to show you guys a video. So educate yourself. Don't get everything you get from the mainstream media. This person, pure facts, no feelings, no nothing. Listen to this guy. If you don't want to listen to the next 10 minutes, just skip it or whatever, up to you. But it's important to get the facts, because our feelings, the way we are, it comes from experiences and knowledge. And if you haven't experienced something like that or know enough about it, you may feel a certain way. But your opinions change based off information, right? I once felt very strongly regarding one thing, then I learned something, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't feel that way. So do your own research, take what you want from it, and come up to your own conclusion. If you don't want to see the next 10 minutes, go ahead and skip it. But I thought it was very, very well put together, because this person actually has the intellectual capacity and the patience to go ahead and give us something to watch. This is what I mean.
So this might have been a bad idea, but Elon posted some super Israel Zionist propaganda, and I responded, for being so smart, you're exceptionally bad at understanding this one issue. It's kind of weird. And I got a lot of likes on that post, and he responded like, what am I missing? And so naturally, I wrote a freaking essay about it. So here's some of my concerns. And right at the start, let's just be clear. I'm not saying that all Jews are in on some Jewish evil conspiracy to run the world, okay? That would be a straw man argument, and that's not what I'm claiming. We're talking about Israel here. And these are just some of the most obvious ones. First off, that AIPAC has purchased the seats of like 90% of our Congress, give or take. I made a whole thread with all my sources, and in this case, I used a video that I made myself where I cited a whole bunch of sources about AIPAC and about JFK trying to get them to register as a foreign agent the months before he got shot, and then they never registered. Secondly, that Israel's obviously the state sponsor of Jeffrey Epstein. He was an Israeli operation through and through, from his handler being Ehud Barak, the ex-prime minister of Israel, as well as the ex-head of Israeli military intelligence. His funding was from Les Wexner, one of the world's richest Zionist philanthropists, and he was accused openly by ex-Mossad assets of being Mossad. And that's not to mention his connection to Robert Maxwell, one of the most infamous Mossad spies ever. In that case, I used another one of my videos where I cited a whole bunch of evidence, and I'm just using them because they're fun ways to consume a lot of primary sources and evidence very quickly. But in most of these cases, I've made tons of different videos, and there's tons of evidence out there about all these claims. These are not complex claims. I mean, in this case, the most obvious and direct source is just To Read One Nation Under Blackmail by Whitney Webb. I'm on my 3rd read-through right now. Next, that Israel is the only nation who has a de facto sanctioned, but it's actually secret and unsanctioned nuclear program. And that's a program that they stole from the United States. Look into the Apollo affair, NUMEC, the Dimona nuclear facility. One great source, if you like video, is this NUMEC documentary produced by Ryan Dawson. It's available for free on Rumble. It's an amazing resource that is super, super diligent. Tons of primary sources in here. Shout out to Ryan Dawson. And then that Jews, Muslims, and Christians live side by side in peace in Palestine before the Rothschilds purchased the country from Great Britain during World War I. See the Balfour Declaration. Literally begins with the words, "Dear Lord Rothschild." Like, how many families in this world have ever received a letter from the largest empire in the world the British Empire, saying, "Dear family, we give you a country." When you dig into what they did to get this country, it's not great. And then when you learn about the history of the founding of Israel and the paramilitary groups that fought to found Israel, Lehi, Irgun, and Haganah, look them up. Lehi and Irgun were declared terrorist organizations by Israel themselves after they were founded because the whole international community was so pissed. You can source that straight off Wikipedia, but you can dig way deeper on it if you want to. Worth digging into how Lehi actually wanted to be allied with the Nazis because they thought it would be a more effective way to get Jews into Palestine. These guys were like bombing British civilians to make the British want to leave, not just bombing Palestinian civilians, both of which are war crimes. And then the leaders and founders of these terrorist organizations went on to be the prime ministers of Israel on multiple occasions for the next 30 years. You start to dig into the history of the previous prime ministers of Israel, and there's some super dark, violent people that ran this country. And that Israel's a foreign nation halfway across the world that has no business receiving my tax dollars. Why are we sending them billions of dollars of our money while our country is burning and overrun by illegal immigration and all these other problems? Go ask Grok how many billions of dollars we've sent to Israel. That's my money. Why are my tax dollars going to this other country? I don't want, what? Israelis have free healthcare and free education and shit. And we have homeless people on the streets and no one can afford a fucking thing over here. What's going on? This one up here got cut off, but there was an entire Israeli surveillance program leading into 9/11 titled the DEA report. Is this whole government report about these Israeli art students that were entering government buildings all across the continental United States. I linked to the entire DEA report as well as specific snippets. It's a massive report. I've read it through the whole thing. And it's hundreds of instances of Israeli spies posing as art students trying to access government buildings all across the United States, clearly conducting surveillance operations on U.S. soil in the years 2000 and 2001. So our greatest ally, but they're spying on us right before 9/11 in a big way. And then call it an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory all you want, but there are FBI documents clearly showing that there were fake Israeli moving companies all across the Eastern Seaboard leading into 9/11, and that members of these moving companies were out photographing themselves with the view of the attack on the trade centers the day before the attack, flicking lighters at the towers. And then the day of the attack, they were in position up to an hour before, witnessed by multiple people, up to an hour before the attacks, in position to take photos and film of the attack. Never got any answers. And that is all documented in official FBI reports that you can read yourself. I linked to the full FBI, all the documents, as well as to a 2.5-hour video of me breaking them down piece by piece. It's very clear when you read it that we never got any answers, but the investigation got squashed. The Israelis got deported. No answers whatsoever. And I'm not even saying that Israel necessarily did 9/11 at all. I don't know. All I know is that we have serious questions and the silence is deafening, but it's right there in the reports. And I don't know if you benefited from us taking down Afghanistan and from us taking down Iraq, but I didn't. But I know that Israel did. And I know that they were writing things like the Clean Break Report leading into that era with people like Richard Pearl, all these neocons. And they were explicitly saying that in the coming decades, we need to take out Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Iran. At this point, Iran is the only company on that list, or country, on the list that was put out in the Clean Break Report that has not been overthrown by the U.S. empire on behalf of Israel. In fact, my generation has been distinctly robbed of life, of money, of our freedoms, of our American way of life on behalf of going to the Middle East to fight wars for Israel that we have no business fighting with made up intelligence from Israel that we very well knew was fake at the time, like weapons of mass destruction. Those were Israeli intelligence reports fed to our CIA that fed them to our president and our security personnel. That's all not to mention just my obvious objections to the collective punishment, mass surveillance, forced starvation, bombing of refugee camps, brutal murdering of women and children that's been going on in Gaza and the West Bank for years, for decades, long before October 7th. And I'm not saying that I promote the violence of October 7th. I wish that we would have no violence. But this is a graph of the number of hostages held by Israel and the number of hostages held by Hamas as of 7/31/2024. from mainstream sources, okay? This has been the state of affairs over there forever, my entire lifetime and more. Any honest look at the lives of the Palestinians, it is very clear who is the oppressor and who is the oppressed. And if it's not clear to you, then you should really go to Rumble and watch this documentary called The Occupation of the American Mind. And it's all about how Israel realized partway through the 80s that if they did not develop a state-of-the-art propaganda campaign, they were going to lose the ideological war on the global stage. Because Americans were super not down with the video footage that was coming back from the bombing of refugee camps in places like Sabra and Shatila, among many others. And if American support for Israel was ever pulled, Israel is completely fucked. And they knew that. And so they moved in the 80s from just a warfare campaign against the Palestinians to a propaganda campaign targeting Americans, because that is the most important thing for Israel to do. Hence, the entire American discourse about Israel today. Watch this documentary. It will clear it right up. And it is mostly Jewish people speaking in this documentary, okay? Let's be really clear here. This is not about the Jews. The dope Jewish people realize that Israel is the worst thing ever for, the Jewish faith. Because it makes it, if you equate Israel with Judaism, that's fucked. I would never want the people that are sponsoring Jeffrey Epstein to represent my religion. That's horrible. And criticizing the government of Israel has nothing to do with criticizing Judaism, okay? So, that's not what this is. This is a government that was founded through terrorism, funded by the mob, literally, and the Rothschilds, and has been stealing nuclear technology from the U.S., propagandizing the U.S., getting aid money from the U.S., and bombing civilians ever since. And yeah, they are also terrorized by their surrounding nations. I wonder why. But don't worry, it is all okay. It's all okay. It's all good. Because they are God's chosen people after all. Who is the oppressor and who is the oppressed? And if it's not clear to you, then you should really go to Rumble and watch this documentary called The Occupation of the American Mind. And it's all about how Israel realized partway through the 80s that if they did not develop a state-of-the-art propaganda campaign, they were going to lose the ideological war on the global stage. Because Americans were super not down with the video footage that was coming back from the bombing of refugee camps in places like Sabra and Shatila, among many others. And if American support for Israel was ever pulled, Israel is completely fucked. And they knew that. And so they moved in the 80s from just a warfare campaign against the Palestinians to a propaganda campaign targeting Americans, because that is the most important thing for Israel to do. Hence, the entire American discourse about Israel today. Watch this documentary. It will clear it right up. And it is mostly Jewish people speaking in this documentary, okay? Let's be really clear here. This is not about the Jews. The dope Jewish people realize that Israel is the worst thing ever for, the Jewish faith. Because it makes it, if you equate Israel with Judaism, that's fucked. I would never want the people that are sponsoring Jeffrey Epstein to represent my religion. That's horrible. And criticizing the government of Israel has nothing to do with criticizing Judaism, okay? So, that's not what this is. This is a government that was founded through terrorism, funded by the mob, literally, and the Rothschilds, and has been stealing nuclear technology from the U.S., propagandizing the U.S., getting aid money from the U.S., and bombing civilians ever since. And yeah, they are also terrorized by their surrounding nations. I wonder why. But don't worry, it is all okay. It's all okay. It's all good. Because they are God's chosen people after all.
Let's move on to something a bit more positive with Carlos Yulo bagged the gold medal in the floor exercise and bronze medals for the individual all-around vault and parallel bars. Good for him. Now it's time for a segment, a feel-good moment, to share some of your feel-good experiences in the Philippines. Albert Thoughts Official says, feel-good moments. My elderly dad was visiting me and dropped his wallet in Grab car. Apparently, then it got kicked under the driver's seat. The wife of the driver found the wallet the next morning while cleaning the car. The driver delivered the wallet to us. Amazing. Wonderful. Another story of Filipinos returning found items like wallets or phones. Thank you for sharing. If you guys want to share your feel-good moments about your experience in the Philippines, write them down in the comment section down below. And now it's time for a segment, Yesterday Today, where I read some of the most popular comments regarding our previous video. Todd Shirley says, I've visited the Philippines 3 times now. Twice I flew Qatar Airways, and my last flight in November 2024 was with PAL, Philippines Airlines. Worst experience ever. I will happily pay $300 more to fly Qatar Airlines. To be fair, Qatar Airlines is one of the best in the world, so not a very fair comparison. Marvin Phillips says, I've been in the Philippines a few years now and notice how reckless those van drivers are, always driving faster than everyone else, switching lanes constantly and determined to be first no matter where they're going. Definitely, and this is regarding that van that crashed into a part of Naya yesterday. Donnie says, how did he get in the Philippines without having a mandatory proof of return ticket? Meaning, how did that American get into the Philippines exactly without a return ticket? There's many ways. 1, you could simply Photoshop a random ticket. 2, you can buy an onward ticket, which means it's only $16 and it's just a fake one as well. And 3, you can buy 24-hour cancellation tickets with certain airlines. Buy a ticket, you arrive, you show it to the immigration. Once you're in the actual country, you cancel your flight back. Bruce says, hey Alex, good morning. In reference to Naya, I have been traveling in and out through Naya for more than 20 years. Back then, it was indeed gone show, but it has improved drastically in the past 5 to 10 years. Honestly, I haven't had bad experiences in the past 10 years as a flying business class. That may have had a little to do with the check-in process, but after that, I was in the same queues and lines as everyone else. The only bottleneck was always having to go to the cashier window and pay the exit fees, but in fairness, that usually wasn't too bad. It could take a long time when there were so many Chinese tourists coming in and going a few years ago, but that really is my only complaint. Naya 1 has restaurants, etc., even Starbucks. Naya Terminal 3, well, that's a different story. I do not like that terminal at all. Terminal 2, there's Philippines Airlines domestic flights still arrive and depart from. It's quite crowded, but I usually have no issues there. I still prefer Naya 1 though. Thanks for the great content. Watch your show daily. Thank you so much for sharing that. I shared my response if you guys want to pause it and read it. It wasn't really the cues that I was worried about, but yeah. Thank you all for watching. Please leave your comments down below. I appreciate you guys as always. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.